What if I told you you are living inside an illusion? Not the grand cosmic kind the mystics speak of, though perhaps that too, but a quieter illusion. One that steals decades without you noticing. The illusion that understanding is the same as becoming. You read, you watch, you consume. You nod your head when a teacher says something profound. You think, yes, I know this already. But the truth is more haunting. You know, but you do not live. Imagine this. A man reads 20 books on fire. He can recite the chemical properties of flame. He can describe how wood crackles, how smoke rises, how sparks leap. He knows everything, except the one thing that matters, the heat on his skin, the sting on his fingertips, the way fire consumes. That is how most of us walk through life, drowning in secondhand knowledge, starving for first-hand contact. The ancients warned us about this. Seneca said, "We are not given a short life, but we make it short, and we are not ill-supplied, but wasteful of it." And isn't that what we do? We waste life in preparation, in endless rehearsals, in hiding behind theory so we don't have to step onto the stage. But here's the secret, the one most never dare to face. Real transformation doesn't come when you feel ready. It comes when you step forward broken, unprepared, trembling, and do it anyway. And I'll show you how. Because there is a way, a different way of learning, of living, of becoming, that looks lazy to the untrained eye, yet it accelerates your growth faster than all the grind and hustle combined. It is not about doing more. It is about touching truth sooner. I call it the 5-step lazy learning path. 5 simple steps that can turn confusion into clarity, hesitation into momentum, and theory into lived wisdom. Stay with me. Because step 4 contains a shift so sharp, so piercing, that it can cut through years of wasted motion in a single instant. And once you hear it, you'll never see failure, struggle, or confusion the same way again. And if this already resonates, if you feel the pull to go deeper than tips and hacks, then subscribe to us at the Self-Mastery Movement. Because here, we don't just talk about change, we live it, breathe it, and burn through the illusions that hold us back. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine this. You wake up in the morning. Before your body even stretches, your hand reaches for the phone. Notifications glow like tiny suns in the darkness. You scroll, 10 minutes vanish, then 30, then an hour. You tell yourself it's nothing, just a warm-up for the day. But by the time you lift your head, the sun is already high, and a faint guilt has already wrapped around your chest. Another day lost before it even began. At first it feels small, a stolen hour, a missed opportunity. But what happens when that pattern multiplies? 1 lost hour becomes 7 a week, 30 a month, hundreds in a year. That's hundreds of hours not lived, hundreds of chances missed, hundreds of promises broken to yourself. And it doesn't stop at time. Maybe it's not just the phone. Maybe it's that course you bought but never finished, the guitar that gathers dust in the corner, the journal half filled with entries that trail off, the relationships you wanted to mend but never found the courage to. You are drowning in unfinished beginnings. And then there's the weight inside, the voice that whispers, "Why do I keep doing this to myself? Why do I waste what I say I want? Why do I know so much and live so little?" That voice grows louder each year. Psychology has a name for it: cognitive dissonance. The tearing apart of the self when your actions betray your values. When the person you are and the person you know you could be stand on opposite sides of the river and refuse to cross. And this dissonance eats you alive. At first it's subtle, a gnawing discomfort, but left unchecked, it turns into shame. Shame calcifies into resignation, and resignation into a quiet death in life. Most people think they are alive because their hearts beat and their lungs expand. But no, true life is not measured in biology. It is measured in depth, in presence, in whether you are living fully or just marking time. And right now, if you are honest, how much of your time is alive? How much is wasted in distractions that leave you emptier, not fuller? Let's go deeper. Think of overthinking, the spiral you fall into when you replay the past or rehearse the future endlessly. Hours lost in imagined conversations, arguments that never happen, scenarios that never will. Think of emotional baggage, carrying wounds from years ago as if they were happening today. A single rejection, a single failure, still dictating your worth. Think of control, the illusion that if you plan enough, prepare enough, think enough, you can finally feel safe. Yet the more you grasp, the more life slips through your fingers. This is the storm most of us live in. Our minds flooded with information, our hearts weighed down with old scars, our bodies restless but paralyzed, and so we wait, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting to feel ready, waiting until we know enough. But readiness never comes, and years vanish like smoke in the wind. Here's the truth, and it may sting. Most people are not living. They are rehearsing. They rehearse conversations instead of speaking their truth. They rehearse skills instead of practicing them. They rehearse dreams instead of living them. And in that rehearsal, life passes them by. Now, let me turn the mirror directly to you. Yesterday, how many moments did you lose? Scrolling when you could have created, thinking when you could have spoken, planning when you could have acted? And if yesterday was wasted, what about last week? What about last month? What about the years behind you that blur together because you were always preparing, never embodying? This is the cost, and it is higher than you think. Because every day lived in hesitation is not just a day wasted. It is a day training your mind to hesitate more. Procrastination is not neutral. It deepens grooves in the brain, grooves that make hesitation your default. That is why the problem grows worse with time. What begins as distraction becomes habit. What becomes habit becomes identity. And what becomes identity becomes destiny. If you do not break this cycle, it will break you. You may think this is just about wasted hours, but it's far darker. If this pattern continues, it does not just steal your time. It steals your potential, your courage, your life force. And yet, there is a way out, a way most never consider. In the next chapter, we'll explore the false solutions everyone tries and why they fail. Only then will the true path reveal itself. When people finally notice the storm inside them, the wasted time, the unfinished dreams, the dissonance between who they are and who they long to be, they don't stay still. They search. They search for answers, for tools, for lifelines. And what do they usually find? The same cycle of false solutions. Some turn to grind culture. They double down on effort. Wake up at 5 a.m., force the body, punish the mind. Discipline becomes a whip, not a guide. And yes, maybe for a moment they feel progress. But look closer. The fuel here is shame, not wisdom. And shame burns hot, but it burns out. Others turn to endless consumption. They binge tutorials, stack courses, devour books. They convince themselves that the next resource will be the one that saves them. But each new thing just adds more weight, more noise, more hesitation. They mistake motion for progress. Then there are the ones who chase shortcuts. Life hacks, quick fixes, secret formulas whispered in some viral video. They want transformation without surrender, results without scars. But what is gained without struggle rarely stays. And finally, some retreat into avoidance. They numb the search entirely. More scrolling, more distractions, more excuses. They say, it's not the right time. I'll start when I feel ready, but ready never comes. Do you see the trap? The harder they chase, the further away clarity seems. The more they consume, the emptier they feel. The more shortcuts they take, the less progress they keep. And the longer they avoid, the deeper the pit becomes. Let me ask you this. Which of these traps have you fallen into? Be honest, because if you don't name the trap owns you. Now, Here's where it gets interesting. Sometimes, after years of struggle, a person stumbles into a breakthrough. They discover discipline for a while. They finish a project. They meditate for 30 days straight. They feel on top of the world. And they think, I've made it. I've solved it. But soon enough, the glow fades. Old habits return. Old wounds reopen. And they are left confused, wondering why the victory didn't last. This is the false ending. The illusion of progress without transformation. Here's the deeper truth. You cannot think your way into becoming. You cannot consume your way into change. You must step into the fire, not once, not for a streak, but continuously. Because life is not a course to complete. It is a practice to embody. And that is where most people stop searching. They think they've reached the end, but really they've only reached a dead end. But there is another way. A way so simple that it feels almost forbidden. A way that flips the rules of learning, of growth, of transformation. It is not about more. It is about less. Not about adding, but subtracting. Not about rehearsing, but living. And when you see it, you will never approach life the same way again. We've exposed the traps. We've exposed the false solutions. But what comes next is the key most never touch. The insight that makes chaos itself the teacher. In the next chapter, I'll reveal the principle that collapses struggle into growth and confusion into clarity. Before we enter that moment, pause, breathe, and remember why you're here. If this message is speaking to your deeper self, then join us. Subscribe to the Self-Mastery Movement. Because this isn't just about one video. It's about walking a path of transformation together. Here is the secret most people will never tell you. You don't need more knowledge. You don't need more preparation. You don't need to feel ready. You need to begin. That's it. That's the thunderclap. Not tomorrow. Not when the timing is right. Not when you've consumed enough information to feel safe. Begin first. Understand later. This is the reversal. This is the law. Everywhere else you've been taught to prepare before you leap. But in truth, you leap first. And in the air, you learn how to land. The Stoics lived this way. They didn't sit in circles rehearsing virtue. They tested it in the marketplace, in the battlefield, in the daily grind of existence. Marcus Aurelius did not wait to understand suffering before facing it. He faced it, and only then did wisdom bloom. Buddhism echoes the same truth. The mind is not tamed in theory, but in practice. 1,000 sutras cannot calm your thoughts, but sitting, breathing, observing, stumbling, wandering, returning again and again, that is where peace grows. And modern psychology confirms it. Your memory burns brightest when tied to emotion, to struggle, to failure corrected. You remember what you fight for, what you bleed for, what you live through. So why is this the lazy way? Because instead of wasting hours drowning in options, you pick one. Instead of cramming theory, you touch reality. Instead of waiting until you're ready, you enter unready. And let readiness be carved into you by fire. It feels chaotic. It feels uncertain. But in that chaos lies the spark of clarity. Think of it this way. The mind is a storm. Waves of thought crash. Winds of doubt howl. Most people try to silence the storm before they sail, but you cannot silence the sea. You must launch into it. And in sailing, you learn the tide, the wind, the current. And then, almost miraculously, the storm is not your enemy. It is your teacher. Every failure shows you the next step. Every confusion shows you the question worth asking. Every broken attempt carves the path forward. This is why the lazy learner grows faster than the grinder. Because the grinder stays in the library of life, while the lazy one walks into the world. And the world, raw and real, is the only true classroom. So here is the principle, spoken as plainly as possible. Do first, fail fast, learn after, repeat often. That's it. The loop is more powerful than the plan. This may sound reckless, but look deeper. Think of a child. A child does not study language for years before speaking. A child babbles, stumbles, mispronounces, is corrected, and tries again. And in that inefficient chaos, fluency is born. You were that child once, which means this ability is not foreign to you. It is your original way of learning. You've simply buried it under layers of fear, shame, and conditioning. Let me speak directly to your hesitation. That voice that says, "But what if I fail? What if I waste time? What if I look foolish?" Listen carefully. Failure is not the opposite of learning. Failure is learning. To avoid failure is to avoid learning. To chase perfection before beginning is to trade your life for safety. And if you continue to wait for certainty, life will pass you by while you're still rehearsing. The truth is harsh but liberating. You are supposed to fail. You are supposed to stumble. You are supposed to touch the fire and get burned, because only then does the lesson become your own. So let me give you a mantra, a line to burn into your heart. Confusion first, clarity after, chaos first, order after, weakness first, strength after. Every master you admire was once a trembling beginner. Every enlightened sage once sat in darkness. Every voice that guides you was once mute, and so are you. But if you embrace this cycle, begin, break, rebuild, you step into the current of real transformation. And here's the paradox. It will feel slower at first, awkward, clumsy. You'll look foolish, you'll feel lost. But soon you will notice something shocking. You will pass those who stayed behind, who chose safety over movement, theory over practice. They are still preparing, still planning, still waiting, and you will already be living. We began this journey in the heaviness of wasted time and unfinished beginnings. But now you see, the chaos is not a curse, it is a compass. The storm is not against you, it is guiding you. In the next chapter, we descend into the philosopher's gym, where theory becomes practice, and I will hand you 5 vivid ways to embody this truth in your daily life. So now, let's go to the place where theory becomes practice. Let's enter the philosopher's gym, because wisdom is weightless until you lift it. Insight is useless until you sweat with it. And here we don't rehearse, we train. These are 5 exercises, 5 ways to embody the lazy learning loop in your everyday life. Not abstract, not distant, but right here, woven into the hours you already live. Tomorrow morning, the alarm rings. Instantly, your mind whispers, 5 more minutes. I'll start my day after I feel awake. This is the rehearsal speaking. The exercise, refuse the negotiation. Get up before you're ready, walk into the cold air, touch the resistance, and act anyway. That single choice trains your nervous system in the loop. Start first, clarity after. It's not about the perfect morning routine. It's about proving to yourself that action precedes readiness. You want to learn guitar, or coding, or painting, and your first instinct is to line up tutorials, binge courses, wait until you know enough. Instead, skip the library, pick up the guitar, open the code editor, touch the paint, break something, play the wrong note, crash the program, smear the colors. Then, and only then, go look for the fix. Because when you seek answers with dirty hands, the lesson sticks like fire. You've just learned something, a new insight, a new practice, and it feels alive in your mind. But if it stays in silence, it fades. So here's the training. Teach it out loud. To a friend, a stranger, or even to the wall. Use your own words. Stumble through it. Notice the gaps, because when you teach, you face your confusion. And when you face it, you own it. Psychologists call this the protege effect. The ancients simply called it teaching. Either way, the act turns half knowledge into lived knowledge. Most people fail because they treat learning like a binge. They flood their brain with a skill, then abandon it for weeks, and so the memory decays. Instead, the exercise is simple. Come back tomorrow, even for 10 minutes. Revisit the practice daily. 1 strum of the guitar, 1 line of code, 1 paragraph written. It doesn't matter how small. What matters is the rhythm, because repetition is how chaos becomes order, how weakness becomes strength, and finally, the most advanced practice. And it's simple. Stop rehearsing your life in your head. You feel the urge to replay a conversation before it happens? Stop. Walk into it raw. You want to map out the perfect plan before starting? Stop. Begin messy. You want to overthink every possible outcome? Stop. Choose, act, adjust. The training is to cut the rehearsal mid-thought and step directly into reality. It will feel terrifying, vulnerable, but it will free you more than anything else. Because life is not lived in rehearsal. Life is lived on stage. So there you have it. 5 exercises for your philosopher's gym. Not all at once, not perfectly, but daily, slowly, layer by layer. And here's the key. You don't need to add these on top of your life. They are your life. Every morning, every project, every word, every choice is already the gym. You just haven't been lifting with awareness. You now hold 5 practices that can change the texture of your days. But here's the real test. Will you live them, or will you leave them as theory? In the final chapter, we will close the loop. We'll return to the illusion we began with, and I'll show you how to end this journey not in confusion, but in peace. Do you remember how we began? I told you that you were living inside an illusion. The illusion that understanding is the same as becoming. The illusion that life is mastered by consuming, by rehearsing, by preparing endlessly. And now, that illusion is broken. Because you have seen it for yourself. Transformation is not in the pages of a book, nor the hours of a tutorial, nor the shelves of half-finished dreams. Transformation is in the beginning, in the failing, in the returning, in the living. The ancients knew this. The mystics knew this. And deep down, you knew this too. That's why hearing it now feels less like new information and more like remembering something you forgot. So let me ask you, what will you do tomorrow? Will you reach again for the illusion, another video, another theory, another round of waiting to be ready? Or will you step into the fire unprepared and let the fire shape you? Because this is where your real life begins. The lazy learning path is not just about skills, it is about existence itself. It is about treating every moment as the philosopher's gym. Every choice, every word, every mistake, every return. And when you live this way, you will notice something extraordinary. Even your failures feel different. They are no longer evidence against you. They are evidence of you. Proof that you dared. Proof that you grew. This is the quiet peace that comes after the storm. The stillness you feel when you realize the chaos was never your enemy. It was your teacher. Remember the man who read books about fire but never felt its heat? That will not be you, because now you know it is better to burn your fingers on the flame of life than to spend eternity studying it from afar. And so we arrive at the end of this path and the beginning of yours. But before you leave, I'll ask you for one thing. Do not let this stay as theory. Choose one exercise from the philosopher's gym. One action. Do it today. Repeat it tomorrow. Layer slowly and watch how the illusion collapses into clarity. And when you're ready to go deeper, when you want to explore not just the art of learning, but the art of living, join us. Subscribe to us at the Self-Mastery Movement, because this path is not walked alone. Here we uncover the truths that shake us, heal us, and awaken us. And together we practice them until they become who we are. But there is one more question. What happens when the storm of confusion turns into the weight of suffering? When the pain is not about learning a skill, but about surviving heartbreak, loss, or despair. That is where the next journey begins. And I promise you, it is a journey worth taking. So breathe, step forward, and remember, life is not rehearsed, life is lived.